Well, well, well. Look who it is. Welcome to our next video. We're not going to have a super long video today, but I will introduce you to a game that I've just recently been playing. It's an indie game. It's really cool. If you've ever heard of like a Blockbreaker or Brickbreaker or whatever, it's kind of like a spin on that, except it's a roguelike. It's called Ball X Pit, otherwise known as Ball Pit. We're gonna take a jump in here. This might all be a little bit overwhelming on the screen right now, but just know that this is my little farm in town. The resources aren't super important. This is just like metagaming stuff. But I want to talk quickly about the definitions that I have on screen, because this is what we've talked about in class today, right? We defined two words, and I'll get to like the context in a second, but I just want to start the video defining them for us here. So the first one, this is the main word that we talked about, is archetype. Now I pulled these definitions from the web, okay? So you have the most accurate definition as possible. On the left here, archetype, a very typical example of a certain person or thing. So the reason why we were talking about archetypes, and I'm going to start a little harvest here while I'm yapping. I'm trying to build new buildings, and you have to do that by launching these guys into the building. So I'm just going to do this. The reason why we're talking about archetypes, look at that, that's perfect, is because we were comparing creators. That was the title of the lesson, right? So in this case, we're comparing the archetype of creator. Again, archetype meaning a very typical example, not necessarily a stereotype, which is a very similar word, but a stereotype has a negative connotation. The word connotation we've also talked about in class a lot. A connotation is essentially an unsaid understanding of a meaning of something. So like if I say the word scream, it typically has a negative connotation, right? You don't typically scream unless something bad is happening. Unless you're on a roller coaster and you're having fun with it, maybe then you're screaming it in a good way. But again, a negatively connotated word is one that's typically seen as negative. So we were talking about connotation as well. And so stereotype, to get back to my original point, is a negative connotation. It's typically a harmful generalization as a stereotype. So an archetype is more so a very typical example of a certain person or thing. So I'll talk more about that once we start the proper video here. The other word is illusion. Okay? Now this isn't like illusion, like optical illusion. This is allusion, which is an expression designed to call something to mind without mentioning it explicitly, or an indirect or passing reference, right? So like if I wanted to reference Romeo and Juliet, but I don't want to mention Shakespeare and I don't want to mention Romeo and Juliet, I could say, for example, parting is such sweet sorrow, right? I could say that as like kind of a joke, but it's an allusion to the play because it's a line from the play, right? So it's not calling it to mind exactly or expressing it explicitly, but it is referencing it, right? So we talked about illusions because, again, we're going to be talking about Paradise Lost, which the monster alludes to in his argument, okay? So we'll talk about the archetype here once we get started. We have 6 characters so far. I am going to choose this guy because his whole special ability is he automatically chooses upgrades, and that way I can focus more on chatting while this guy is making the build for me. So I have these 2 areas completed. I'm going to do this one in the middle. We'll see what the game's about here in a second. It's pretty cool. It's kind of my my game of choice lately. It's just a little bit satisfying to play. Ball X Pit. So while I am getting started here, let's talk about archetypes. So again, the whole reason why we're talking about this is because Victor is a creator archetype, right? He is someone who makes something the first of its kind, and has a very important role in its growth and development, right? So as you can see, he just picked my upgrade for me, so I don't have to focus on that. All I have to do is just move around and shoot special balls at these guys. Right now I have an earthquake ball, which does a 3x3 area of effect damage. And then I have a laser ball, which shoots a vertical laser all the way up, which is pretty cool. So the other creator that we're comparing is the god of the Old Testament, because we haven't gotten to Paradise Lost yet. But the monster learns how to read by reading Paradise Lost, which is a text that isn't religious, or not canon, as if to say official religion or religious text, but is rather a story based off of a classic story, the story of Genesis. This is an interesting upgrade. Let's see. So, because the monster is alluding to Genesis, that's why we're comparing Victor to the god of the Old Testament. Now, the god of the Old Testament is the creator archetype, right? And so, this is important too because it calls to mind the epigraph at the beginning of the book. Here's another word for you. For those that don't remember, an epigraph is when an author takes or references directly a different text as kind of the preface to their own text. So Mary Shelley used Paradise Lost as her epigraph, and it was a quote from Adam, the created, right, the creation, Adam. And as we get to this point in the story, we can start to realize, that Mary Shelley is directly making a comparison, a comparison between Adam and the monster, which then, without saying, also has to be making a comparison about Victor and God, right? So that's the main takeaway of this comparison, right? Well, I say the main takeaway of the comparison. That's the idea, right? Takeaway of the comparison is we look at the God of the Bible, who gives Adam everything, is very generous, is very willing to give Adam authority in the garden, right? Compared to Victor, who doesn't do anything for the creation. So little, in fact, that he has removed himself from the creature's life, right? So we see a clear difference, and despite these two characters being the creator archetype, we see a very distinct difference between the way that those two creators manage their creation, right? So it's a very simple concept, in essence, really. But the reason why we're talking about this now is to prepare you for Paradise Lost, which is what our next focal point will be once we start talking about the Creature's Tale, which is tomorrow. This is our first boss fight. If you've ever played or heard of Vampire Survivors, it's kind of like that mixed with Brickbreaker, right? So what to expect next? When we're talking about the Creature's Tale, the interesting thing about the Chris Grimley version is that, compared to the Mary Shelley version, the creature speaks in the Mary Shelley version when he's telling his tale. In the Chris Grimley version, it's all pictures, which is fascinating. And I think Chris Grimley did that for a very specific reason. Because it leaves a lot more room for interpretation for the reader, right? We're simply seeing it through the creature's eyes, who, by the way, at this point, when he's back then, the version of the creature who's in the story as the creature's telling it. The younger creature. He doesn't know anything about the world yet, so it actually makes sense to see the world from his perspective, right? Like, we can't read about it, we can't articulate it, we just can see it. And I think that's pretty genius. And the interesting thing I pointed out in class is that the further into the creature's tale you get, the more color is added to the pages as the creature learns, which is fascinating. Ooh, this is pretty good. Increasing the harvest clock by 2 seconds means I can farm more things each harvest. I also have myself a snack, which Rumo is trying to steal. So ignore my crunching and munching. Your boy's hungry, okay? He just spent all day teaching English. And by the way, I just want to take this time to say, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I've been hearing from a lot more students that don't typically participate. I don't know if that's because of the new videos, but yeah, if you're watching this, participate more. I want to hear from you guys, right? So this guy's, the character here is trying to build the light beam, which is a synergy that you can get. So we'll see if we can actually pull that off here. I played the demo of this game when it came out, and it was just really satisfying to play. And there's so much content. Like, it's a huge game. Dude, this damage is gonna be crazy though. Look at that. So what's next on our list? The Creature's Tale. Well, besides what I've already said, we're also going to learn about the fate of William and whether or not the creature actually killed him. Because that's what Victor thinks. So we're going to find that out soon. And that's a pretty important point, because once we figure that truth out, the entire story changes. I'm not going to spoil it though. At boss number 2. This game's not too expensive either, so if you feel like this game looks pretty fun, which I do, it's not too pricey. It's an indie game. That's why I love indie games. Like, they're not overpriced, and you get way more value than what they're worth. Literally worth it, right? Like, they could be like $20 and like infinite replayability. But everyone's too busy buying the new Call of Duty, you know? So let's see, I'm trying to think of any other words we may have mentioned in class today. The word of the day, which I'll share with you now, is dreidel, which is a 4-sided top, typically associated with Hanukkah. And if anyone celebrates Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of holiday-themed words as we make our way through December here. There's crack on the sticks there, look at this. maxed out almost on levels here. Gotta take this guy out, otherwise he's gonna wreck us. Gotta take some damage here. Or not. Let's see, what's the evolution here? Yeah, it's the blinding light beam. Boom. Look at all this XP though. I gotta move quick, otherwise we're gonna lose it all. This guy's gotta go. So the cool thing about this game is every single ball that you can get has a different ability. Right? And then there's some like crazy combos. You can like merge them, you can evolve them if you have two different ones that like synergize. So there's like a lot of like different builds that you can make in this game, right? So we'll do one run of this. We'll call it a video because today's lesson is relatively short. It's pretty easy going. I think the next video would be more so about Paradise Lost. Ice now. Level 3. The final boss is coming up soon here. Look at this damage though, are you seeing this? Oh my lord. Dark ice. The archer guys shoot arrows, but they also do damage to dudes that are in their way, which is kind of cool. Something else I was talking about earlier is that while I may not be running any streams again anytime soon, just given the formality of it all, if we can get this channel to 1,000 subscribers somehow, I'll probably have the justification to be able to do so with a wider viewership, right? But as of right now, we're kind of local, and I can't really be streaming, you feel me? But like, if this channel becomes like a legitimate thing, that's a different ballgame, ballpark, whatever. This is a ball game. So spooky. Oh, by the way, you guys, the boss music in this game, like each boss has their own theme. And so far, out of the 3 that I've heard, they're all bangers. So prepare yourselves. This was light work, by the way. Honestly, I might even turn up the desktop. I'm gonna turn up the music for this. It's like a weird sample. I don't know what the sample is, but it's like weirdly catchy. So we gotta knock off the... You see there's like little stacks down there that are really and I was frozen once. But hardly any damage. And for a build like this, I mean, it's okay, but like, I've seen crazy builds, right? This is nothing. We're almost there, look at the health. There we go. Easy run. So I'll show you like the whole farm system and everything. We'll run one more harvest here. And then we'll call the video. We'll call it a short one for tonight. So here we are, we're back. Now I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see what's popping. Now I want to move these guys because these are done building, right? Put you here. Now this guy's building, so we'll put him here. Lumberyard. See, now I'm strategically placing these so I can get as many ricochets as possible. I don't know about this, but we're gonna give it a try. These two need to be built as well. Watch this. So now I'm just gonna launch them all in there. This one needs to be upgraded too. And this one. We'll upgrade these at some point. I want to try and get these done first though. There's also more buildings that I can make. Like a watchtower. I can just increase the harvest clock by like 1,000,000 seconds. There's also this one. Got a lot of buildings and not a lot of time to upgrade them all, you know? Put a harvest clock here. Okay, so let's launch it and see what happens here, right? I'm thinking we hit one of these. I think I got them all. The Shade, I got a new character. The Empty Nester. Look at all these buildings, you guys. So now we can reorganize and then we'll call it a day. There's the lumberyard, which we're going to want to move elsewhere. It's getting kind of cramped, you guys. Let's see, so now with the stone mine, let's move everything that's upgraded. A house for the Empty Nester. There's that. Put that there. University. Put that there. There's the watchtower. I think I want this stone mine thing. There's the lumberyard. I'm gonna put you here. Because now what I can do is that. I'm being as strategic as possible with this. But now this is what we want right here. So next harvest, these will all get upgraded and then we'll be set. I want to make sure I got everything. A house for the Shade. That is technically within here. So we're getting lots of experience for that. stuff I'm looking at here. Assign a character here. I do need to assign a character there, so let's do that. I have a character there, I have a character there. Let's assign you. Yeah. Okay. So now we have someone there. We're gonna need somebody in the stone mine once we get that sorted. Yeah. So we'll call it there. It'll be a short video today, but I wanted to cover what we talked about in class because it was a 2-hour delay and we had some distractions. So hopefully this was a nice way of doing that. Let me turn down the volume again. Sorry if your eardrums were blasted that entire time. Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with some more. Probably gonna be Roblox, right? I made a thumbnail for it. So stay tuned for that. We'll talk about the creature's tail, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.